Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning. Whereabouts do you live? I forgot.
I'm in Ohio.
Okay, who do you want in this Super Bowl?
I don't know. I really wanted the Browns. I was just so surprised that how far they made it this year. But Kansas City
did really well.
would probably be the one I'm watching. Kansas City.
Kansas City. I like Kansas City. I mean, they got a good quarterback and everything.
Yeah.
They're a fun team to watch, but because I live in Florida now,
Yep.
I was there for when they won the 2002 Super Bowl.
Ah, cool.
So it should be a good game.
It should. That's all I care is that it's a good game.
Well, you guys are coming along really well. Cleveland's got a good team.
Where did that come from? I don't know.
And your best wide receiver was injured all year.
Mm-hmm.
The guy with the blonde hair. What's his name?
I can't.
Came over from the Giants. Can't think of his name.
Mm-mm. Well, it's a cold morning here in Ohio. We have a whopping 9 degrees this morning. So it's cold and snowy. Looks like we've got everybody coming in here. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It is a change in seasons. I was just mentioning the winter season. We'll get to the winter season, later on. Now we're transitioning to a spring season. And in the spring season, it's important to, stay adherent. If there's a time where you need to be 100% adherent, now's the time to follow the program. And the reason that is because it takes our body a little time to flip the switch and get into a ketogenic state on burning fat. And if you have a little bit of sugar, that little bit of insulin is actually going to flip you back into sugar burning mode. And then it's going to take that same amount of time to get back into fat burning mode. So not that it's the end of the world, it's just going to maybe slow down some of the progress if we're, having some extra sugar sneak in. So this is kind of a cold turkey type of situation where all of a sudden the sugars are just gone. And as you flip over, I would encourage you to kind of avoid the temptation zones. You don't have to have the fruit sitting there on the counter staring at you all the time. But also, this is a time to satisfy our cravings. So as we flip over to fat burning mode, we also level off all of our hungers and cravings. All of our levels really level off when we get into that mode. See, we need blood sugar, and our body is going to maintain our blood sugar. Our liver is going to use a process called gluconeogenesis to produce sugar that we need. There's certain organs that have to have sugar. Our brain, our heart, our kidneys, our liver are going to have sugar in order to function. But our brain can also function on ketones as well as other things in our body. So we're going to kind of use dual fuels, 2 fuel sources, both sugar and fat. And it's going to basically take the fat that is on our body and turn it back into sugar for those things that we need. Now, the other piece is that satisfying the hunger is our blood sugars kind of level off, and we don't have that roller coaster ride of up and downs from a sugar standpoint. And the energy we need is on our body. So we don't have to, constantly be looking for something to eat. So really pay attention to the hungers, and as they start to diminish, they kind of go away. But we need you to keep the rhythm of eating. Even though you may not be hungry and may not want anything to eat, we want to send a signal of abundance to the body, and we want to make sure that you're continuing to have that rhythm of eating. So you should be eating everything that you normally would in a spring season from a vegetable standpoint. So take out that food guideline list and look at the vegetables that are in season. It's all green. Green is the rule. If it's green, it's probably okay. And all kinds of leafy greens start to grow in the spring. But you also have your meats, your nuts, and seeds. Now, just one note on the nuts, peanuts and cashews are not necessarily nuts. We're looking at tree nuts, the pecans, the walnuts, the almonds, the pistachios, the pine nuts, the macadamia nuts, the Brazil nuts, all of those types of nuts. And from a seed standpoint, you can have chia seeds and flax seeds and pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds. From a seed perspective, all the different types of seeds. So keep this rhythm of eating and pay attention to the food guidelines as to what you can have. A few other things to kind of be on the watch out for. Prioritizing sleep. We actually burn the most fat while we sleep, and we produce growth hormone. So make sure we're getting a good amount of sleep and prioritizing sleep. You'll notice that your sleep patterns may change a little. You may wake up more rested and, maybe feel like you don't even need as much sleep. But just make sure you're prioritizing sleep and getting enough sleep as well. Since your body is functioning on two fuels, your brain tends to clear up. The brain fog goes away, the mental clarity comes in, the better focus as you use both ketones and sugar for fuel. So now, as we release fat, our body is going to be detoxing. And some of those toxins that have been wrapped up for years are going to come back out. And our body is in the position to handle them. The liver will be able to, with all the nutrients that we've loaded in, when you go into a spring season, you want to make sure that you're well nourished. And our liver is going to be able to process all of those toxins out. And as they come out, though, they may have, different types of reactions. You just might be tired or lethargic. Your energy may dip before it gets better. Come Tuesday, you might be like, I don't know if I can do this. Push through. Once it flips the switch, it'll be a lot better. But you might have some headaches, some rashes, some different, feelings of I just don't feel well. That's all perfectly normal as you kind of flip the switch into that fat burning mode. So let's start off with checking in with all of you, see how the buffer zone's going, see how you're preparing for the transition to the spring season, what questions you have, etc. Anyone want to go first? Nancy's hiding. Go ahead, Carrie.
I had a ton of fruit to eat. We stocked up on fruit. So we've been eating fruit all weekend. And but we did stock up on, you said, eggs and sausages and bacon, and we did find ones with no sugar.
Good.
That was really difficult.
Yeah.
To find that. And so we did all that. And you said we got all the seeds. So now we start putting flaxseed and chia seed into our green drinks and that's fine?
Yes, you can. Now that you're in an Alka-Geyser Prime situation, vegetables can be combined with anything. We've removed the fruit. So fruit's the one that can only be combined with vegetables, but vegetables can be combined with anything. So you can add in your, if you want some coconut milk or some almond milk, flax seeds, chia seeds, you can put some different things in there.
And so before we weren't allowed to do that?
Because of the fruit, correct.
Okay. All right. And then what about the HTC oil, the coconut milk? Are we able to use that in our smoothie?
In the smoothie, you can if you want to. MCT oil is those medium chain triglycerides. They're easier for our body to convert to ketones. There's one, I think it's lauryl acid, that doesn't have to be metabolized at all. So it does. It seems kind of counterintuitive at this point, but giving your body more fat actually encourages it to flip over to fat burning mode. There's the first section of the small intestine, the duodenum, is monitoring everything that's coming out of the stomach, and it's looking here and it's like, well, we've got some fat and some more fat. Here's some more fat. Maybe we should just flip over to burning fat. Seems like all we have is fat coming. So it does send that signal to, hey, let's just flip over. So it may help adding in some additional good fats at this point in time. Now, what are the good fats? So increasing our quality of fats, we want, plant derived, but cold pressed. So the extra virgin olive oil, the extra virgin coconut oil, avocado, olive, and coconut are probably the main ones that you want to focus on. There's other nut oils as well. So if you wanted to find like an almond oil or a walnut or macadamia nut, just make sure that it's a tree nut that you're finding the oil from. So just to give you some different flavors, sesame seed oil is another one that you could use. But cold pressed, extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil. Now, coconut oil is the oil you want to use probably for higher temperatures. It's just more heat stable. If you are going to heat it up, it's best, to add it after the fact and not heat it up at all. And there's some people that, like Carrie was mentioning, the MCT oil, just putting that on your salad or your vegetables or something after the fact helps with satiety. But the other thing from a satiety standpoint right now is the fiber. So we want to make sure that we're really increasing the amount of vegetables that we're having. All of the vegetables that are in season. So from a Alka-Geyser Prime standpoint, now's the time to double or even triple the amount of Alka-Geyser that you've been drinking. And what I've done from an Alka-Geyser standpoint, I make the entire pitcher full. I think it's 64 ounces. Yeah, there's some water in there, but it's a good amount of vegetables. And I'm to the point where I put all kinds of greens in there. Yes, I've got the celery and the cucumber and the spinach and the avocado, but then there's the collard greens and the kale and maybe a couple kinds of kale. Maybe it's the dino kale or Lachino kale, and then the curly kale or the purple kale, or and then it's collard greens and mustard greens and Swiss chard and dandelion greens and then the herbs to give it some different flavor with cilantro, a whole bunch of cilantro. That's great for your liver and detoxing. But basil and oregano and mint and, any of the fresh herbs you can throw in there as well. If you want to spice things up, you got jalapeno peppers or maybe some cayenne pepper. So from a spice standpoint, you can put any of the spices in there. Garlic is another one I've tried. And of course, my motto is, more is better. So I went a little overboard with everything and put too much garlic in there. I couldn't even get it down. But, play around with your recipes and see, what you want to add in. Have you found a recipe you enjoy, Carrie?
For what, the Alka-Geyser?
Alka-Geyser?
I just been using the main one, but I have a nice mixture of all those things that you said. It's got like about 4 different types of greens. Mm-hmm. So I've been using that quite a bit. And I use the mint and cilantro, but I will I'll play around with some of the other herbs there. Just check them out and see. So for breakfast, it's a good idea to have an avocado or half an avocado with the sausage and yep. Pour oil, a little bit of oil and even some seeds on it.
You could, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Those are all good ideas.
Exactly.
The drinking I haven't drank at all, since we started. I've just been drinking tea basically in the evening, and it's been fine. Today's Super Bowl, so I have the kids coming over today, but I'm not drinking anything. I got stuff for them.
Okay.
Go Bucks.
That'll pay attention to that conversation and see if there's any piece of you that are you still connecting with everyone and getting the relationship piece without having to have the alcohol in that.
Well, last night we ordered some seafood, this haddock, really nice haddock, and it comes with potatoes and veggies, so we just doubled up on the veggies. But in the back of my mind, I go, a glass of white wine would be really nice with this, but
yeah.
So not too bad.
And what I do with that Alka-Geyser then is I divide it into 3 different glasses. They're about 20 ounces each, but then I have one throughout the morning, kind of in between, breakfast and lunch. And then I have another one in the afternoon, kind of between lunch and dinner, and then another one in the evening. So that's kind of how it turns into more of a snack, but it's also, that help to satiate myself from a nutrition standpoint, all throughout the day.
And that's, you're talking about the big jug of the Vegemix, right? The Vitamix?
Yep. Yep, 64 ounces, yep. Any questions? It sounds like you've got a plan here.
No, like you said this morning, it's nice to have the review just to get some extra ideas. I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, Michelle says she has to go, so we can check in with Michelle and see, from her expert opinion, she's been doing spring for some time. How is the transition to spring going to be for you, Michelle? Are you planning?
Well, I've been enjoying the fall. I decided during the buffer zone, it's like, what am I doing? I've been doing the modified spring. It's like, have all the bell peppers and what is it? Yams, red sweet potatoes. So it's like, it's going to be a sweet potato festival this weekend. So today after work, but I'm going to come home. And I saw your banana pancake thing. But it's like, I can do that with sweet potatoes, make sweet potato pancakes.
Yeah.
So, and then last night I was experimenting making chips. And I'm like, okay. So now we know, it's like, because I was staying in the spring, it's like, you're going to go into deep spring. So you might as well get the yams and all the sweet stuff in now because it's going to be crazy in the next week. And I put on a pound doing that, a pound or two, but it's like, it's okay because I know it's going to happen when we go into spring.
Yep.
And so that's kind of basically what I had bacon one day unintentionally. I was out at the Acorn Museum, the Children's Museum in the park. They have some new stuff on the menu. The guy told me last time, because I'm always telling him I can only eat certain things. And he goes, we're going to put shrimp and grits. I'm like, this is all I need is shrimp or grits. Well, shrimp, but grits. And then he's like, we're going to have grits over here. Then all of a sudden on the menu was tasso and sweet potatoes with 2 eggs on top. I'm like, that sounds really good, but I'm sure that tasso is really cured and sweet. So it's like, next time when I'm done this spring, I'll do that for, you know what I mean? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
When Eric was saying.
You think that you're influencing the menu, or is there others that are asking the same thing?
Well, I don't know, but I went in there because when I had the eggs that one day, well, I wanted the burrito with the bacon. So I said, but I don't want the tortilla and I don't want the cheese. And they looked at me. So he goes, you want the eggs and bacon? And I'm like, yes. And I said, can you cut up some tomatoes? So they did. And they're like, is this okay? And I'm like, this is fine. But it tasted really good. I mean, I enjoyed the bacon and the eggs and the tomatoes together. So next time I'll just ask them to throw some more vegetables in.
Perfect.
And one time I went in there to they had the broccoli, but of course they fried it and they were going to put some honey thing on top. I said, can I just have the broccoli without any, no, not the broccoli, the Brussels sprouts without any of the sugar stuff. And he goes, well, I can deep fry it and put some Crystal hot sauce on it. I'm like, that's fine. But I realized frying stuff is really what I crave. So a few weeks ago when we were doing the thing on, I forgot what we were getting rid of. It's like, I found the best place to get French fried sweet potatoes, and that was at Whole Foods, of all places.
Okay.
Really good, not super greasy. They tasted really good, and I was enjoying that. So I'm like, okay, now I have the places where I can go to get the better quality stuff.
Yep.
But the bad part was I had that sweet potato with the hamburger, which they put on portobello mushrooms. It was a paleo burger, so which is okay. But when you combine those two, it just kind of sits there.
Yeah.
And I knew that was going to happen, but it's like I just wanted both of them at that time. But it's like it's going to happen later. So I'm learning. It's like, well, you're not going to do that too often. So, but it's like I've been enjoying the sweet potatoes and I've been enjoying the bell peppers because I realized it's like, I haven't had bell peppers in a while. And this is the buffer zone. So I'm like eating the bell peppers. I'd made some bone broth soup. So every day I take that out and then I just add whatever vegetables I feel like eating to the bone broth. And then I either have soup or have stir fried. So I'm experimenting with more stuff, but
So
I don't know if I don't know if I'm looking, huh?
Nancy's asking, how do you know if you flip the switch? Do you know how do you know if you flip the switch, Michelle? Can you tell?
Sniffles. My body does certain things if I'm going to the bathroom a lot.
Okay.
I'm going to it's like more fluid.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first day when I went into it, it was like I was in the bathroom all day long. And I'm like, what happened here?
So what Michelle's describing there is insulin is just naturally, blood sugar in general, higher blood sugars is kind of inflammatory. So our body tends to hold on to more water when we're in a sugar burning mode. So when we get into fat burning mode, there's just the natural release of extra fluid. So you see a change in your weight immediately just because of the water shift. So that can be one thing. Anything else you notice?
I was lethargic for a day or two.
Yeah.
I was tired for a couple of days and I was like, what's going on here? And then it's like, okay. And then I read more and then listened again. It's like, okay, it's part of the whole process. And that, I think it only lasted a couple of days, 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. So
and then the weight didn't start coming off until the end of the week. I mean, it took a few days for it to get into it, but those are the starting things that happened.
So some of the other signs, Nancy, of flipping the switch, the one that you probably notice the most is the hungers and cravings just kind of go away. When you're in fat burning mode and you're using the fuel on your body for energy, the rest of the hungers and cravings just melt away. But the thing is to keep eating. Even if you don't feel like eating, you got to keep that rhythm of eating. The other one is, from a sleep standpoint, it's easier to maybe fall asleep and sleep soundly, but you wake up rested, maybe even before the alarm clock. So your sleep pattern kind of changes. The other one for me was come Wednesday, I noticed it was this clarity. I woke up and I was like, wow, I just feel different. It's just like this mental clarity and focus that I had, knowing that my brain's functioning now on both fuels. So the hungers, the sleep, the cravings, and the focus and mental clarity are probably the main ones that people notice. We can get into, testing different ketones in your urine and your blood if you wanted to, but we'll get into that later. I want you guys to kind of feel the difference in your body and see if you can feel the transition. Now, some people it's like a switch, and the next day they wake up and it's like, whoa. Others, it's more of a gradual. Each day it builds as their ketone levels build up. And that can also be that their insulin levels are going down. Remember, there's 3 hormones that oppose ketosis. There's estrogen, cortisol, and insulin. Well, how we're handling the insulin is, taking out all the carbohydrates, not all of them, but we're reducing the amount of carbohydrates. And that's going to level off our insulin levels. Adding in all the fiber will as well. From a cortisol standpoint, breathing exercises are important. Making sure that you're getting out of that, fight or flight mode, that go mode, and, relaxing a little when you eat and knowing that you're on the right path and this is all going to work out. So it doesn't have to be psychological stress. It can be physical stressors as well. Eric will talk more about exercise and how we can overdo it from an exercise standpoint. So one of the things that's needed to burn fat is oxygen. That chemical reaction I think I told you guys about clear back at the beginning of the challenge was, you've got fat molecules, which is like carbon and hydrogen, and you're going to burn it. You're going to bring on oxygen. And that oxygen is,
I got to run, but anyway.
Okay.
Bye.
So,
thank you.
The oxygen that you're adding in is burning the fat molecules and releasing carbon dioxide and water. So we have to maintain an aerobic state, meaning a state that we're using oxygen. So if you are going to do some exercise, it can't be real strenuous or heavy exercise that kicks you out of ketosis. You have to be able to carry on a conversation. That way, you know you're still breathing and getting oxygen in. If you get out of breath, that's going to flip you over to sugar burning mode. J-Lo, I saw your hand. Did you want to go next? Do you have a question?
Yes, sorry, I was still writing your notes.
No problem.
Yeah. Let's see oh yeah, I'm still eating all the fruit that I that I bought on Thursday, so I'm going through all of that. And today I'll be testing different alkalizer recipes and stuff like that. Okay. My question is, I was already getting into not 100%, but like mostly vegan before this program. So how can I make sure that I get like the protein that I need, especially now that we're switching to like veggies and meat?
You know, from a protein standpoint, we tend to overdo it, you know, from a protein perspective. So protein, you know, breaks down into amino acids. There are building blocks of life, and our things our cells and everything are built out of those amino acids. Now, everything that is living is built out of protein. So if you look at all of our fruits and vegetables that we've been eating, there's protein in them as well. So from a vegetable standpoint, there's protein in our vegetables, and it's just getting a good variety. Now, we can get everything we need to from plants if we have the right, you know, variety of different things that we're getting into. Now, there's a couple things we can't get, which is, you know, B12 and K2. These are certain, you know, vitamins that are made by bacteria. And if we've got the bacteria in our gut, it'll continue to supplement that. But we may want to watch, you know, from a B vitamin perspective, if we're getting enough B vitamins in. So the other thing is, if there was a period of time where you needed the most protein over the entire lifespan of the human, when do you think the most protein is needed?
You're talking about in the year or in the day, or? Your
entire lifespan as a human. When would you need the most protein?
At the beginning, when you're forming and growing?
Yep. So if we look at human breast milk, the ideal, you know, food for a baby, it's about 7 to 9% protein. And if you look at, you know, fruits and vegetables, they're about 7 to 9% protein. So the vegetables that you're going to be getting in during a spring season will have protein there. So if you feel like you need some additional, every once in a while, you know, you need more protein, obviously, if you're going to be strength training and building muscle and wanting to really grow muscle. Probably not the best time to do it in spring. Now, spring is muscle sparing. You're not going to lose anything from a muscle standpoint, but you can, if you wanted to, use like a pea protein or something like that, a pea protein powder. Obviously, we've eliminated, you know, dairy, so all the whey products would be out. We've eliminated grains, so all the soy and rice protein would be out. So that kind of leaves peas. I know peas are not necessarily spring, but when you have the pea protein powder, you're eliminating the sugars. So Sun Warrior makes a good pea protein powder that is unflavored and doesn't have any other sweeteners or anything with it. It's just plain protein powder. So that would be one thing you could look at if you feel like there's something else there that you needed to supplement.
Okay, and then one more question. My husband is not doing this with me, and like I'm teaching him and all of that, but he's been doing keto forever. And this spring season is very similar, with the exception he does cheese and stuff like that. But like, how long is safe to be doing this spring season or like keto? I'm asking more for him because I do worry that he's doing it for too long.
Yep. So a couple questions here that a couple things I want to address. But from a cycling standpoint, there's benefit of transitioning out of a spring season into, you know, sugar burning mode again. And the reason that is ketosis is a catabolic state. You're breaking things down. You're breaking down fat on your body and using it for energy. When you switch back to sugar burning mode, insulin is an anabolic state. You build things up, or you replenish, things, and things start to grow again. So just the sheer flipping from ketosis into sugar burning again stimulates stem cells to start to grow again. So the benefit also is flipping the switch back and forth kind of recalibrates everything from a hormone standpoint. Sometimes people stall out or they plateau and they don't, seem to move anymore. Well, they have to recalibrate those hormones, and simply flipping the switch back and forth gets things going again. In WildFit, we talk about cycling through seasons and changing things up. Probably the longest you want to stay in a spring season is probably like 4 or 5 weeks.
Okay.
And then you want to make sure that you're cycling. Now, there is a healthy way of doing ketosis, and there is an unhealthy way of doing ketosis. So what we're doing in WildFit's the healthy way, and let me tell you what the difference is. There's studies out there that show, just realize when you've got when you're burning fat, there's more fat being released into your blood. Cholesterol, you've probably heard, cholesterol can clog your arteries and cause problems. Well, the reason that isn't cholesterol is not the bad thing. We have to have cholesterol to create all the hormones in our body. We make, estrogen, testosterone, cortisol, melatonin, all those things, serotonin, all get made out of cholesterol. So if we don't have enough, our body's going to produce it because we have to have it. So cholesterol flying, that's the way our body works. When we release fat from our blood, it starts to, from our cells, it starts to travel around in our body and our blood. Well, the liver is going to control the amount of fat that's in our blood because we can get too much and our body decreases the oxygen carrying capacity. If there's too much fat in the blood, then the body can't carry around as much oxygen, and we need oxygen to burn the fat. So it's kind of, back and forth type of thing. But the problem, LDL and HDL are the kind of those cholesterol molecules that are flying around in our blood. And LDL has a purpose. It's a Band-Aid. It's to, if there's damage on the inside of your blood vessel, it's supposed to put a Band-Aid on it and keep it from, having damage. So when we have high blood sugars, like really high blood sugars, we cause oxidative damage on the inside of our blood vessels. So LDL and any, fat that's in the blood sticks to it. Well, also there's certain foods that we know cause inflammation. We've eliminated the grains, from the inflammation that they cause. So when you're in a ketogenic state, you don't have the sugar and you don't have the grains. But the other one that people still have is dairy. And we know dairy is causing inflammation in the body as well. So adding in a ton of cheese and milk and cream and all kinds of stuff can cause inflammation in the body that plaque can build up. So from a cardiovascular standpoint, you can take ketosis in the wrong direction and adding in those, we just talked about quality fats and the fats that we should have. So if you're not having those healthy fats, or you're having, a bunch of dairy products, you can cause a bunch of inflammation. And there's studies out there that show it increases the chance of having a heart attack or stroke. So doing it in a long-term fashion, not in the healthy way, can be detrimental. So how do we get around that? It's all the vegetables. Your body is intended to have vegetables, lots of them, all kinds of green vegetables. That's what's going to bring everything back into balance.
Thank you. Super helpful.
Great question. So you feel like you're ready for this week, J-Lo?
I don't know about that. I always said that I was not a sweet person just because I didn't like, cake and sugar stuff, but I didn't realize how much sugar I was, ingesting. So the fruit made me really happy. Let's see. I may be a grumpy J-Lo for the next week until I get used to it.
Yeah. And that's fine. You might be a little grumpy and your sugar monster is going to be raising hell, but it'll be okay once everything gets leveled off. Very good. So if there is any challenges that come up, reach out. We're all here for all of you as, Tuesday, Wednesday come along and you're tempted to have a little bit of, sugar or something sweet.
Will do. Thanks.
Awesome. Who else wants to share? Nisha, you had a question here. When and how do we use pea protein powder? And do you know if we need to add it? You don't have to add it, especially if you're having different meats. So J-Lo is, more on the vegetarian side and not having any additional proteins. Protein will help from a satiety standpoint, and actually fat will as well. So just like we were talking with Carrie about adding some MCT oil or any type of oil to your vegetables, after the fact will help provide that satiety to get you in between meals. So you don't have to use protein. It's one of those things that if you're a vegetarian or vegan and you want to supplement from a protein standpoint, that would be one that you could use. All right. What other questions you guys have? Anyone else want to go next? Well, go ahead, Molly. We'll be right back to you, Joan.
My first question is, how can we go from fall into spring? What happened to winter?
What happened to winter? So we'll talk about winter, and you'll have an option of doing a winter season. But winter is I'll just let the cat out of the bag. Winter is a season of scarcity. It's fasting. We wouldn't be eating anything. So from a winter season, winter and spring are both fat burning modes, but it's easier to transition somebody into spring and get into fat burning mode while you're eating food, opposed to, because winter is more of a psychological game, and overcoming, well, I'm not eating anything. So there'll be option to do winter, but it's easier to transition to a spring before we go into a fast or a winter season.
Okay, that was my guess. Now we aren't supposed to be having carrots now in spring.
Correct.
Do tomatoes count as a fruit, or do they count as a vegetable? What do they count as?
Great questions. So there's some of these that are, we label them as vegetables, or we think of them as vegetables, but technically they're fruits, right? Anything that has seeds in it is, the fruit or the offspring of that plant. So, I mean, a cucumber is technically a fruit. Zucchini is a fruit. A pumpkin is a fruit. Well, we consider them vegetables though. So the definition of a vegetable is any root, leaf, or stem. So a cucumber is not a root, leaf, or a stem. It's technically a fruit. But so yes, there's certain fruits that we're allowed to have. So the tree fruits are probably a better definition of what's eliminated. We're eliminating all the peaches and plums and berries and all those types of things as well. So berries are also out. Now, looking at we classify a tomato as a vegetable, but it is kind of in the middle. Since it is a fruit, it's a little bit sweeter. It's not crazy sweet. You may not believe me, but carrots are sweet as well. So we put it in the middle, and it really comes down to quantity. Michelle was mentioning earlier, she can have an omelet with some, tomatoes on it and perfectly fine. And then, I'll put tomato on my salad and, not a problem. Now, if you make marinara sauce and have some zucchini noodles, those two things are in the middle. That's probably too much from a middle standpoint and can kick somebody out of ketosis. So it really comes down to quantity on those ones that are in the middle.
Okay.
So avocado is technically a fruit. We're going to continue. Avocado, we're going to have a ton of avocados.
Okay. And I assume I had started to have some like kind of coconut chips that don't have sugar added with tea sometimes, just a small quantity, but I assume that having coconut then is out. Is that true?
You know, if it's raw, you know, coconut, you know, just coconut meat, you can still have that. You know, from a fat content, there's coconuts and avocados are higher in fat content. You know, Eric mentions coconut milk as one of those things that are kind of in the middle. Yes, you know, if you're adding in the coconut water that has a little bit of sweetness to it, you kind of have to, you know, see, it comes down to a quantity again as to how much you can have. So if it tastes sweet, you know, you have to watch the quantity and maybe even have to take it out for a little while. But I make my own, you know, coconut yogurt in the past, you know, using, you know, coconut cream and adding in some probiotics and letting that, you know, kind of ferment and grow. There's a couple brands out there now that you can use that have, you know, almond milk that's made out of a coconut yogurt, almond milk and a coconut. There's two different ones. Kite Hill is a manufacturer that makes things out of almond milk. Trying to remember the one that I have for coconut yogurt now that I find at Whole Foods. Begins with an A. I don't know if it's Alexa's or something like that. I'll see if I can take a picture of it for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
What other questions you have? You ready for this?
Can you review what we can eat? Like I keep on thinking, okay, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, can't eat that. I'm like having trouble thinking of things we are.
And I don't know if you saw in Facebook, I did post a video from a salad standpoint. And I think that's a good, you know, video that shows you all the different vegetables that you can have that you can include into a salad. But really, if it's a leafy green, you can have it. And we're also looking at different meats. So we can talk about the quality of meats. If you want to improve them, we can get into that. But any meats, nuts is any tree nuts. So your pistachios, your almonds, walnuts, pecans, macadamia nuts, pine nuts, Brazil nuts. The ones that are out are peanuts and cashews.
Cashews, but they're a tree.
They are, they come from a fruit, and they have more carbohydrates in them. So we kind of see them more as a legume because of the carbohydrate content.
Wow, okay.
Same thing with peanuts. Peanuts grow in the ground. Another thing with peanuts, because they grow in the ground, there's an increased chance for them to have molds and mildews and things on them. So not always the best from an immune system function standpoint. Can add an extra stress, you know, to the body. So peanuts are out for right now. Seed-wise, so meats, vegetables, nuts, and seeds are our main things to go to. Now, from a fruit standpoint, you've got avocado and, you know, tomato and coconuts, you know, so there's a little bit there, not a lot. So take a look at that video and see all the different things, because from a vegetable standpoint, you've got all kinds of leafy greens, but all kinds of mushrooms too. You know, there's all kinds of different mushrooms that you can add in. So that's usually another thing you can add.
Okay, thank you.
And print out the gathering guide or the guidelines for this week. It'll help to break those vegetables down into different seasons, or what's in season, what's not in season, and what's kind of in the middle. The key is to really increase the amount of vegetables that you're having. So how many servings of vegetables do you think you have during the day here now, Molly?
I don't really know. It's sort of like I have at least one, sometimes two, but the truth is it's probably just more than one. But it's very large sort of container, it's bigger than a glass really, of Alka-Geyser. But how many servings that is, I don't I don't really know. It's like way more than I used to eat. So
That's good.
I don't know how to quantify it.
So we're looking at a serving is about 8 ounces. So I was telling Carrie earlier, I put a bunch of vegetables in my alkagizer and I get 64 ounces. So that's 8-ounce servings. But I probably add in about 16 ounces of water. So subtract that off, and we're at 6 servings of vegetables with all of that alkagizer. Then I'm having some vegetables with lunch and dinner. A big healthy salad. You'll see in my video a big salad. From a leafy green standpoint, a serving is like 2 cups is 1 serving. So we can be anywhere from 7 to 10 servings of vegetables, and if you're J-Lo that's having just vegetables, even more. Dozen, maybe 15 servings of vegetables to get all the variety in. So some of you are asking about beans. Beans are out at this point. So first off, from a WildFit standpoint, beans, we come across beans, we wouldn't be able to necessarily eat them. They've got really hard coatings on the outside, and that's one of their protective mechanisms. So in order to eat a bean, you have to basically soak it in water or cook it to make it edible. So the other reason they're out right now, we can bring beans back in if they're kind of one of those things. If you want to have them occasionally or rarely, you can see how they fit into your WildFit lifestyle. But if you did bring them back, they would fall into a fall or a winter. I'm sorry, a summer or a winter. They would be a summer or a fall season. So those would be the 2 seasons that the beans and legumes and lentils would fall into. What else? What other questions you guys have? Joan, you had your hand next.
Okay, this week has been my grumpiest WildFit week.
Yep.
Seriously grumpy, because not only did I buy too much fruit before, but this is my favorite time for root vegetables. I am from the Midwest. I love all my root vegetables from the root cellar, so I'm really grumpy. And I just want to point out that green isn't always good, because now I can't have wasabi or horseradish, man. Two of my favorite spice it up kinds of things. So yeah, this is really hard, and actually it's the first time that I felt that I had to like super bear down to think how I cook. Because I'm a very integrative cook in terms of veggies and stuff. I can do any veggies, but just no discrimination. And this is super discrimination.
So realize we're doing a deeper version of spring, where we're eliminating, all these other vegetables purposely to get into, that ketogenic state, so that everyone can feel what that's like.
But I have a major question.
Go ahead.
Can I get, because it might, so I have carrots and other things, and fermentation and I do fermentation, natural fermentation. Yep. My mind says, the sugar will be eliminated.
Will be ate up. Mm-hmm.
Ate up by my friends. So I am going to not freeze any carrots. I'm going to ferment, and I may, I haven't tried Jerusalem artichoke fermented because I grow them in the backyard, sunchokes, and this is the time I dig them up and I eat them. So,
okay.
So it's okay.
So yeah, fermenting, as a hunter-gatherer, that wasn't something that we were doing. But, as we started to evolve, we wanted to do, how are we going to preserve food longer? And we used fermentation to preserve food, in a longer period of time. So fermentation, the bacteria, let's just talk a little bit about the different bacteria. So there's soil-bound bacteria that, in the soil, they break things down and decompose them. And when we ferment something, that's really what's happening. We're eating up all the sugars that are in there and breaking it down. It's starting to rot in a way. That's what we're doing with cheeses and, yogurts and things like that. It's breaking it down. Now, there's also bacteria that are, I call them elevated biotics, that are living above the soil, that are, kind of synergistic with the plant. They're on the leaves and the stem and the actual produce. So there's in our gut, there's pathogenic bacteria, the ones that are bad. There's, the soil bound ones, the ones that are just kind of there. They break things down, but they kind of, having fermented products will help to push the bad bacteria out. So their fermented products are not harmful to us. But there may be a little bit of benefit as if there's pathogenic bacteria in there and we're kind of pushing the bad bacteria out. Now, the best bacteria are the elevated biotics, the ones that we actually have a synergistic relationship with, that we need to have. There's bacteria there that produce vitamin B12 and K2, and there's actually some bacteria that make butyrate, which is a chemical in our body that our intestinal lining actually uses for energy, but actually gets converted into butyric acid in our body and helps to bring down insulin resistance and control our blood sugars. If you look at all the nutrients that are coming from our gut and being absorbed by our body, 36% of them are waste products of bacteria. Yep. And we have this synergistic relationship with the good bacteria. So when we're having our produce, we don't have to scrub the heck out of it. We don't have to clean everything off of it. It's those good bacteria that are living on them that we actually want. And, one thing to get even more good bacteria growing is to do some sprouting. If you take like broccoli seeds or alfalfa seeds and things, like that and start to sprout them, the good bacteria start to grow as you are growing those seeds and sprouting them. So fermenting's not a problem, but not something that they did as a hunter-gatherer. So
only if they lived in caves and they had good little pottery and enough salt.
Yeah,
that's really good. And I don't think I have any other. Added protein. I have several from trying something else, and then this is hemp.
Yep, hemp would be another one you could do.
Yeah, this one is 100%. I also have with the pea. This one.
Okay, hemp and pea together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately, they throw sugar in.
Oh, that's what you got to watch out for, is the added stuff.
So annoying.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm still feeling, crunch.
What are you going to crunch on?
I shopped, I studied, I hunted, and I found some perfect pork rinds.
You got it. That's probably the biggest go-to for crunch is pork rinds.
Right, and you have to be super careful.
Yep.
If it's cinnamon flavored, because they add sugar. It's so the same brand. There's only 2 I can have. The other 2 I may not have.
Yep.
So that was very interesting.
Good find. So Epic is a brand that I see, and they have one that is just sea salt. So it's pork rinds and sea salt.
Yep. I always like it when the ingredient list is really teeny tiny little ingredient list.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm gonna struggle. I had to print out the list of veggies that we can have to remind myself.
Yep, good for you.
Because otherwise I just do what I know how to do, which isn't this. Yep. Meat's not a problem because I have clean meat at the farmer's market, pork and lamb, and so I feel comfortable. And bacon, really good unadulterated bacon, so that's not a problem. So
nice.
other than I'm having now that this morning when I saw wasabi was on the no list, I'm like,
You know, Joan, you can probably get away with a little bit of horseradish. You know, I know it comes from a root, but the quantity that you're probably going to have is pretty small. So.
Okay, thank you, Father Ryan. No, that's good. I really do like horseradish on lots of things. So thank you so much. This is fun.
Awesome. Great. You guys can do this. It is a little cold turkey as we transition to spring and eliminate the sugar. The sugar monster is probably going to get a little riled up, but you can do it. Come, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can, yell at me and Eric all you want, but we'll be there for you to listen. So fiber will help to keep you full. Make sure you go, overboard from a vegetable standpoint. Adding in some additional healthy fats will also provide that satiety. So prioritize your sleep, keep the rhythm of eating. You have to send a signal of abundance to your body that there's plenty to eat. Last couple things I don't know if we've talked about that Eric mentions is salt. From a salt standpoint, we need to increase the salt that we're having. I mentioned the water that's kind of leaving our body, but we want to make sure we've got good electrolytes as well. So salt that has different minerals in it, even better. So having some pink Himalayan rock salt or Celtic sea salt, and get some different varieties of salt. You can get different smoked salts and things like that from a flavor perspective. But spices and herbs are going to be your friend to kind of make these vegetables taste different. Making some additional sauces that you can put on the veggies. I have a aioli recipe I can share with you guys that you can basically flavor it however you want with garlic or southwestern herbs or things like that. But having that extra is always a help to change up the flavors. Nancy, did you have any questions? We got a couple minutes.
I'm sure I do, but I'm just sitting here in shock because I don't know how I just don't know how I'm going to do it. But so what I've been doing, I finally added another alkalizer in the evening because I wasn't eating enough additional vegetables.
Yep.
And I needed to get that new alkalizer in. So I put in broccoli and mint as my additional elements, and I found that palatable.
Good.
So now I have an evening or I have an alkalizer starting tomorrow. It's the only alkalizer because I'm eating my last alkalizer with the apple this morning because really I have grown to have great affection for it.
Good. That's good.
So
it's still serving you well.
I'm sorry to be
thinking about it as a bad thing.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry to be letting that go, but now that I've overcome my hideous first prime attempt, I'm sort of okay. So basically, Ryan, I start with lemon water, and I've been having the whole alkalizer, like the whole Vitamix full. And then it takes me all damn day to drink that thing. And then I have usually like a piece of chicken or a piece of fish and another prime alkalizer.
Okay.
And that is sort of like, that's sort of what I'm doing. So I have like very clean, naked protein, except for I do put primal ketchup on it. And and a couple of alkalizers, like probably 120 ounces, because it's 2 giant Vitamix fulls.
Okay.
And I left the coconut water out because I don't want to risk not flipping the switch, because this girl is holding out for that. Like, I need that.
Yep.
So I've left out everything that I think is even marginally suspicious.
And going cold turkey and leaving all of that out will help. The other thing is just to add in some more good fats to help flip the switch. So switch the flip the switch. Avocados are good, you know, extra guacamole and things along those lines, but even a little coconut oil.
So I'm eating two whole avocados a day.
Perfect.
Is that enough?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, if you're having it in your alkalizers and you're having 2 whole alkalizers, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is that enough?
If you're having 2 big pictures full and then some meat on top of it, I think you'll do fine, because you're probably getting
Right.
a good 5 servings in each alkalizer, so you're probably at your 10 servings of vegetables, you know, throughout the day.
Cool.
Doesn't have to be cooked.
Cool.
I mean, raw is even better. So if that works for you, that works for me.
Well, that's why I'm putting it in. Putting it in the alkalizer because it's all raw, right?
Yep. And
cool. So I'm good.
Eventually, you know, I want you to start to dive into different recipes and you know, see some different things, you know, to get different variety. But hey, this will work.
I need a little coaching on that, but yeah, I hear you.
We'll get there.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. You guys have a great week. Reach out if you need anything. I'll see you guys in the Facebook group. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Yes. Have fun, everyone.